Well, hello everyone. I hope you all are doing well today. Well, today we are going to talk about the basic principles of management, the 14 principles of management. Well, a classic theory on the principles of management was written by Henri Fayol in his 1916 book named Administration Industrielle et Générale. Now, it's a French name. And in this book, by placing the focus on managerial skills over the technical skills, he has mentioned the importance of these principles, which gives us a foundation for what we call it as a good management, a best management. Now, more details about Henri Fayol are mentioned in the description box below, so you can check it out, and you might also find it a lot of details in Google as well, on internet. Now, Henri Fayol developed these 14 principles of management towards the tail end of Industrial Revolution. Now, it was the perfect timing too, because the world had been subjected to massive changes and new changes, and new and improved working styles were the requirement of the moment at that time during the Industrial Revolution. Therefore, Fayol's principles of management influence not just then, but even the present management theory quite significantly. So let's get started. Well, now the names of these principles are self-explanatory if you see one by one, for all the working individuals, especially professionals. However, let me explain you with a very basic fundamental example. Let's take an example of a school to understand the administration, the management in general with these principles, because we all have been to school and we will all be able to relate with the school management and understand these principles in a better way. So the very first principle mentioned here is the division of work. Now, taking this example of a school administration, in a school generally tasks are divided among teachers, administrative staff, and support personnel. Teachers focus on educating students in specific subjects. The principal oversees operations all the time, and the administration staff always handles tasks like admissions, record keeping, and maintenance. So basically, everyone is assigned some or the other department function that they are proficient at. They are expert doing that work, are skillful at doing that work, and that is how the division of work is done. And in general, at our respective workplaces, if we want to apply this principle, in order to implement this principle effectively, look at the current skill sets of each employee and assign them a task that they can become proficient at. They must already be skillful at that task, but they can also become proficient at it. Now, this will help them to become more productive, skilled, and efficient in the long run. And that is all about, division of work, which is extremely important. Because most of the times we see that one of the reasons that reflects the setback of management and administration, the way it's functioning in many organizations, is that the leaders, the managers, the top management is unable to do this division of work efficiently by identifying the expertise of every individual and assigning them tasks related to it. So that is why division of work is extremely important. Now, the second point is authority. The principle, if we talk about, again, the school administration management, taking an example of a school, the principal, always the director or the principal of the school has the authority to make decisions for the school. But with that comes responsibility to ensure the school's educational standards are upheld. Similarly, teachers have authority over their classrooms and are responsible for students' learning and discipline. There was a dialogue also in the famous movie Spider-Man that with more power comes more responsibility, not the other way around. But again, I've always said this in my other videos as well, that there is a difference between being authoritative and being a dictator. So while being authoritative is crucial at times, especially if you are in a leadership position and have a big team to lead and manage and supervise and support and mentor, it's a whole lot of thing to do for a one person. So sometimes it's important to become authoritative, but we must not forget that thin line that while becoming authoritative, we try to dictate things and impose things on our colleagues, on our subordinates, on our team members. So be mindful of it. Now, according to Henri Fayol, there should be a balance between authority and responsibility. If there is more authority than responsibility, the employees will get frustrated and will also maybe take advantage of it. And if there is more responsibility than authority, again, the manager, the employees all will be frustrated because there is not a balance of it. A manager or a leader or your employees will feel demotivated because you are just giving them more and more tasks to just follow, but nothing or sort of an authority to make any decisions in the tasks that they are performing. So there always should be a balance between the two. Now, the third principle of management is discipline. Now, discipline, when we again take the example of school administration management, discipline is maintained through school rules and codes of conduct, just like in any organization, for both students and staff in a school setup. Often students are expected to follow school policies, while teachers and staff must adhere to professional standards of the institution. Now, it is always very important, not just in school, but in any organization. Even if you are a solopreneur, a freelancer who doesn't have to report to anyone, nor do you have any team to mentor or delegate work, but that self-discipline is extremely important, and that self-discipline also comes with a set of vision, mission, core values, goals, certain limitations, guidelines that you have set for yourself, boundaries that you have set for yourself, the code of conduct that you have decided to follow in your personal and professional life. So it is very important for any organization, however big or small it is, to have a set of rules, code of conduct, core values for the discipline of the organization. Now, as I said, there should be set of organizational rules, philosophies and structure in place that should be met by everyone. It's not that you have made it on paper as a part of policy, but the employees are unable to implement it. They are not trained, they are not made aware of. So that should not be the case, and bending rules or slacking should not be allowed in any organization. And for that, awareness trainings are must, and in order to achieve this, there should be and is a need for good supervision and impartial judgment for every organization. Now, the fourth main point, a principle of management, is unity of command. Again, taking the school example, each staff member and student often reports to one supervisor or authority. For example, teachers report to the head of their department or the principal, while students follow their teacher's guidance. Now, this avoids conflicting instructions and confusions. According to Henri Fayol, an employee should receive orders from only one manager. If an employee works under two or more managers, then authority, discipline, and stability are often threatened. Moreover, this will cause a breakdown in management structure and cause employees to burn out and being confused all the times. The fifth principle of management mentioned here is the unity of direction. Now, again, taking the school examples, all staff usually work towards a common objective, educating students and maintaining the school's reputation. A unified curriculum and shared vision ensure all efforts contribute to this goal. And each and every teacher, supervisor, vice principal, everyone makes equal amount of effort to work towards this common objective, this common goal that they have decided for their school. And departments align their activities towards the overall development of the students. Be it in any school, we see the same environment, which is extremely important for the child's future. Now, according to Henri Fayol's principle of management, that it states that the work to be done should be organized in such a way that employee work in harmony towards the same objective using one plan under the direction of one manager. And again, I'll go back to the same point that for this, defining proper objectives, be it in our organization department-wise, a common objective for the company as a whole, then department-wise, which is also mentioned in ISO standards, especially 9001-2015 quality management systems, that the objectives is very important to be defined for any organization department to work towards a common goal and have that proper direction for each and every member. And then the next step is directing and training the employees towards achieving that same goal and being on that same page. The sixth point, the sixth principle of management is collective interest over individual interest. Now again, taking the school example, the staff and students set aside personal interest to focus on the school's objectives like providing quality education and maintaining discipline. For example, a teacher may prefer a certain way of teaching method but must follow the school's curriculum for consistency. Now, talking about in general about this principle, the interest of the organization should not be sabotaged by the interest of an individual. If anyone goes rouge over a specific decision to be made or certain feedback or a suggestion, the organization will collapse. So it is extremely important in terms of decision making, in terms of working as a team effort. It should always be a collective interest, a group interest, a company's interest as a whole over any individual interest, and that includes the top management as well. Sometimes it happens that a specific leader, individual who is in a leadership position would like to take certain decision for the team, for the organization, and because he, she or they is in a leadership position, they would be biased towards considering their personal interest over specific decision making rather than the team's decision, the collective interest, which should not be the case upwards at top management as well. It should always be a group, the company as a whole, that also involves the middle and bottom level management as well. The next principle of management, the seventh principle of management, is remuneration. Now again, going back to the school example, teachers, administration staff, and other employees are often compensated fairly most of the times through salaries and benefits. Additionally, students may receive rewards for their academic performance and behavior, fostering motivation and a sense of achievement. Now, talking in general about this principle of remuneration, any organization that underpays its workers will always struggle to motivate and keep quality workers. This remuneration should include both financial and non-financial incentives. And again, there are today in these days in this era of industries, manufacturing, business world that we are living, there are so many audits, ISO, workplace assessment, social compliance, that always have certain guidelines based on the benefit of the workers, especially the daily wage workers and the laborers that are working within the industry or a manufacturing unit. And there are a lot of audits happening regularly at many levels in every segment and industry, which is a must to grow, to maintain that fair balance, not just in terms of our processes, but in terms of the remuneration, safety, security of employees as well, which is, as I said, should be financial and non-financial both. The eighth principle of management is centralization. Again, going back to the school management example, the decision making is often centralized, with the principal or the school management being at the topmost hierarchy. For instance, the major decisions regarding curriculum changes or school policies or budgeting are made by the top management always, or maybe the principal or the trust. Although teachers may contribute suggestions through department heads. Now, when it comes to centralization refers to the concentration of power in the hands of authority and following a top-to-bottom approach in terms of management. Now, complete decentralization or centralization means that there will be no superior authority to control the organization. Now, there are lots of companies today that are operating not in a centralized manner but a decentralized manner. Now, and when we talk about decentralization, there is not a top to bottom approach in the sense a single authority that we are reporting to as the topmost hierarchy, but instead, in a decentralized hierarchy, it is often segregated, delegated and distributed departmental wise, the management, the leadership, and not limiting to specific one authority. But to use this effectively today, there should always be a balance of centralization and decentralization, because both have its pros and cons. Centralization means there will be only top one authority that everyone will be obliged to report to, but the benefit of that is the decision making is often fast, because it is the hierarchy is simple, and there is only one person who is in a centralized hierarchy. There is always one person, or often the topmost department, who is responsible for taking the final decision, whereas in decentralized there are many leaders at many levels and the decision making process might be slow. But in today's time, it is very subjective that what works for you as per your industry and the market, the specific region wise that you are working in, that works for you. Now, the degree to which this balance is achieved will differ, as I said, from organization to organization. So you will have to reflect on what kind of organization that you are working in, or you have as a leader or an entrepreneur, and what you want to follow in your organization. The ninth principle of management is the scalar chain. Now, again, going back to the school example, the organizational hierarchy in a school is clearly defined. Now, people who are not very clear about what is a scalar chain, again, scalar chain is nothing but a level of hierarchy that functions within the organization. So, in terms of school, there is always a specific hierarchy, which is the principal as the top, is always at the top, followed by vice principals, department heads, teachers, and administrative staff. Any communication or decision follow this chain of command to maintain order and clarity. So scalar chain, as I said, is about hierarchy, and hierarchy is always about the chain of command, the chain of authority, the chain of decision making, the chain of operating on daily basis. And this refers to a clear chain of communication between employees and their supervisors and managers and leaders. Now, to implement this in the workplace, Fayol suggests that there should be an organizational chart drawn out of for employees to see the structure clearly, and that is why even if you are a startup that has recently started your organization, your company, be it a small medium scale enterprise, it is extremely important to have an organizational chart. Even if you have a staff of 5 people, 3 people working within your organization, it is extremely important to pen down the vision, mission, objectives, the roles and responsibility areas of each and every personnel working within your organization. The responsibilities, the tasks, the result areas, the departments, the network, the regions, all of it. So if you have a chain of organization that is operating in 5 different regions, you will have to make an organizational chart based on it. And there are a lot of organizational charts, categories of organizational charts depending on the type of work structure that you have within your organization. Maybe in next few videos, if I get time, I'll definitely try to make a video on types of organizational charts and structures that might help you to figure out that what kind of chart or what kind of structure is more suitable for your organization, subjective to your industry, right? Now the next principle of management, the 10th principle of management, is order. Now again, but the example, in schools everything has an assigned place: books in the library, lab equipments in the science lab, and classrooms organized for smooth operations. Now here when we are talking about order, it is the order of all the resources, be it the humans, the people, the personals working within the organization, the materials, the resources, the machines, each and every resource within the organization. The order, this principle of management talks about the order of all those resources. And resources are often organized efficiently, ensuring in school that students and staff can easily access what they need when they need it. Now this principle states that there should be an orderly placement of resources, like as I said, human power, money, materials, etc., in the right place at the right time. This ensures the proper use of resources in a structured fashion. Misplacement of any of these resources will lead to misuse and disorder in the organization. Now the 11th principle of management is equity. To be precise, it's not equality, it's equity. And equity is often the balance of, in my opinion, justice and kindness. So now again, going back to the schools example, fair treatment is critical in schools and in every organization. All students, regardless of background, are given equal opportunities to learn. Teachers and staff are treated with respect and fairness, ensuring equal workload distribution and professional development opportunities. Now, this principle in general states that managers in any organization should use kindliness and justice towards everyone they manage. This creates loyalty and devotion among the employees towards the organization that they work for. The next principle, which is the 12th principle of management, is stability of tenure of personals within your organization. Now, again, going back to the school example, retaining experienced teachers and staff helps maintain a stable learning environment. High turnover disrupts the learning process. So schools often encourage long-term employment by offering professional development and career advancements program and opportunities. This principle states specifically that an organization, be it any organization, should work to minimize staff turnover and maximize efficiency. Any new employee cannot be expected to get used to the culture of an organization right away. It does take time. The leaders are always responsible to train the new employees, help them settle down in the present organization that they have recently joined, because at times it takes a lot of months to get over the previous company's work culture. So it's a tedious process to start from zero when a former employee resigns and you have to recruit a new employee. You have to start with zero by training people and doing all the things, be it settling them down to making them understand your department, your organization specific objectives and goals. Now, both old and new employees should also be ensured that job security, because instability can lead to inefficiency. So these days, there's a culture that every 3 to 4 years or maximum 5 years, people keeps on changing their organization for few percentage of maybe monetary gain or maybe a job title. But I would say, if you are comfortable with the management, with the company, with your incentives, financial, non-financial, all of it, then just to follow the trend and culture, you don't need to do that, because loyalty is a very intangible factor, but it is still highly appreciated by a lot of organization. So if you have a reason to quit, surely do go ahead, but just to move ahead and keep up the pace with the ongoing trend, you do not need to do that without a reason. Now, the next principle, which is the 13th principle of management, is the initiative. Now, again, going back to the example, teachers and students are encouraged always to take initiative in their respective roles. For example, a teacher might propose a new extracurricular activity, or a student might take charge for organizing an event in their school. Now, this often fosters creativity, leadership, and involvement in school life. When employees have a say as to how best they can do in their job, they always feel motivated and respected, most importantly. So organizations should always listen to the concerns of their employee and encourage them to develop and carry out plans for improvement. Have a suggestion box, have a feedback box within your organization. Try to have regular monthly meetings without any agenda, just to get the feedback, the suggestions, a fresh perspective from your team members, from your employees. It is extremely, extremely important. And always be open to new initiatives, because you never know, however small initiative it might be a very intangible reason for many employees to be happy every day. Maybe it might not be contributing directly to your sales or your turnover or your profit, but it might be contributing towards the work culture of your organization, towards creating a positive environment within the team members or your employees. So there are a lot of initiatives that different employees suggest. So have a listening skill, that you never know that how even the smallest of initiatives might benefit you in your organization on a larger scale after a few years. So always be open to it. And the last principle of management is esprit de corps, which is again a French word, and that means team spirit. Now, taking this school example again, a sense of team spirit is always fostered among staff and students, because schools often promote teamwork through group activities, staff meetings, events, extracurricular activities, etc. etc. So when teachers and students work together harmoniously, it strengthens the overall environment and productivity. Now, the Henry Fayol principle of management, this principle specifically states that the management should strive to create unity, morale, and cooperation among the employees. Team spirit is a great source of strength in the organization. Happy and motivated employees are more likely to be productive and efficient. While discussing the new plan of action for achieving the next month's targets, using the word we instead of I brings a team spirit, a teamwork spirit to the group always. So always have that team spirit approach to create a harmonious culture, and it's not always about I who have done it, or taking credit that it was my leadership, but it is always I always say this, that just like each and every element in nature contributes towards our planet to operate our planet smoothly, each and every element, similarly each and every personnel who is working within your organization is contributing in its own unique ways. So never forget to acknowledge and appreciate the power of team within your organization. So, if you are a homemaker who has to manage big home, family members, and house helpers all at the same time, or even if you are an entrepreneur, leader, or a manager, or a working professional working within your organization, if you just apply these 14 principles of management, these basic 14 principles of management mindfully at your work every day, every single day, and strategize your policies and actions around these at your workplace, then I bet that the workplace that you are working in will absolutely become very smooth, easily manageable, and stress-free for you. Try it out and apply these 14 principles of management at every step in your workplace, within your job role, for your team members, for you yourself as well. So that's it for today's video. I hope it was informative and you got to learn some insights out of this video, and stay tuned for many such more interesting articles, stories, models, case studies related to management. I'll see you next week.